Welcome, everyone. On behalf of Berkeley Art Museum Pacific Film Archive, I'd like to welcome all of you to tonight's presentation. My name is Sean Carson, and I am very happy to have you all here to see this truly amazing presentation that we're doing tonight. The title of tonight's event is Contemporary Ballet by Women Choreographers, and what you're going to see are works by 4 different local ballet companies from here in the Bay Area that were pulled together by this force of nature called Kathryn Roszak, who invited all these companies to perform something. And one of the things we're very excited about is that out of the 4 ballet companies, 3 of them actually filmed in our museum. It was very soon after certain COVID restrictions were lifted that we were able to put this together, and we were able to actually film on the museum property with, you'll see, masked dancers, and there are a lot of special limitations and rigmarole that everyone had to go through to make this happen. It was very, very special for us to be able to do something in our space again. And the fourth of the 4 events or performances that you'll see tonight was actually filmed nearby in Tilden Park. So it was a very local production in Berkeley. It was very, very exciting. So we're thrilled to have all of you here. Thank you for joining us tonight for this presentation. I'll mention the 4 ballet companies, although I'm sure Kathryn will do this in her introduction, are Smuin Ballet, Diablo Ballet, Berkeley Ballet Theater, and Kathryn's own company called Danse Lumiere. So all 4 of those you're going to see tonight. I'll also mention that you're welcome to ask questions in the little Q&A thing. If you've ever done these Zoom webinars before, at the bottom of your screen, there's a little button that says Q&A. And if you, at any point, you don't have to wait till the end. If you want to ask a question, go ahead and throw that in there. We'll do the questions at the end, but if something occurs to you as you're watching or listening, feel free to ask a question there. So now I'd like to invite onto the screen Kathryn Roszak.
And thank you also the Berkeley Art Museum Pacific Film Archive. This is an incredible lineup, and this program is highlighting women ballet choreographers. And the goal of the program, the idea, was to bring artists together during COVID in the museum, which was in fact shut. So it was a great day when we were able to be inside and dance. Originally, this was planned as a live performance. So we're going to bring the very best that we can to you, our audience. And I invited for this the Smuin Ballet, which is led by Celia Fuchsil, artistic director, Cassidy Isaacson, choreographer, the Diablo Ballet, which is under the artistic direction of Lauren Jonas, Penny Saunders, choreographer, and I'm Kathryn Roszak, the artistic director of Danse Lumière, and I'm contributing new works that were made entirely during COVID. And the Berkeley Ballet Theater is led by Robert Deckers, and he is presenting Danielle Rowe. I'd like first to go to the Smuin Ballet. It's a wonderful favorite company in the Bay Area, founded by choreographer Michael Smuin in 1994. And it's known for its very American style. Celia Fuchsil took over the leadership in 2007, and I actually danced with Celia in the San Francisco Opera Ballet. And it's just my pleasure to see her curating and guiding the dancers and nurturing talent such as Amy Seiwert and now Cassidy Isaacson. During COVID, the company's been performing in non-traditional settings, such as John's Grill in San Francisco. And it was fantastic to see people having steaks and martinis and watching ballet in Dashiell Hammett's favorite haunt, where he wrote The Maltese Falcon. And also the company's been performing or will be performing at Cal Shakespeare. This is the can-do spirit of Michael Smuin. And I want to now ask Celia, where can we see the company coming up?
Hi, Kathryn. Thank you so much for having me. We're about to wrap up our season, and we have a few small performances through Friday, although I do believe everything is sold out. But we will still have things available virtually on our website. So if you go to smuinballet.org, you'll find more information about those offerings. Starting tomorrow evening and Sunday, it repeats. We have the final virtual program of our season, which are 6 short dance films created, choreographed, filmed, and edited by our artists themselves. So it's a really, really exciting program. And the culmination of what this pandemic has really forced us to do, to look at new ways of approaching dance, of presenting dance. And we're really excited about the program, which will premiere tomorrow night at 7:30 and repeat on Sunday at 5 p.m.
Fabulous. I'd now like to go to Cassidy Isaacson, choreographer. Cassidy, these dances are wonderfully inventive that you brought to the museum. And I hope that you can tell us about your inspiration, particularly the music, and how this drives the dances that you created.
Awesome. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. The first work that you will be seeing is called Chemistry, and this was a collaboration with a musician in Seattle. And I contacted him through Celia. She brought us together, and I told him that I would like to make a very happy piece about two people who are in love and just want to build each other up during this really hard time. So I wanted to create a work that was really lighthearted and a love story of right now, kind of set in an older style. So that was made by Brandon Milburn. And then the second work that it will go directly into is by the Bear Cubs. And it's very different. And it's very quirky, and it's a solo on a man. And I choreographed all the movements to the tiny little quirky sounds in the song. And I've had this song in my back pocket for over 10 years now, waiting for someone to take it on with me. So thank you.
That's great. Shall we take a look at the dances?
Were the stars all in alignment on the day that we first met? Needed help with your assignment on a tricky problem set. When you put your hand in mine, you sent shivers down my spine. And I knew it was a sign that we were meant to be, my partner in this lifelong duet. It was right back in sophomore year when I fell for you, dear, that's a fact. You were bright, you were charming and wise. I was one of those guys with no tact. Well, you delight, you intrigue, you're way out of my league. But you proved it that opposites attract. When I asked you, I guess you decided on yes, all because of our chemistry. Take it. Pursued all our pursuits. We made a life, we put down roots. We had each other's back at every step of the way. And then I watched your career rocket to the sky. Well, I stayed grounded so you could fly all around the world till you could land back in my arms today. 'Cause we're tight, we're a match, and we fit. When you're gone, I'm a bit out of whack. You're my light. When you're gone, it gets dark. There's no fun, there's no spark. It's all black. Now you're right here with me, with your light. We can see that it looks like we're on the right track. That no matter how far you may roam in this world, you're the love of my life. You're my high-flying girl, and I know feet are falling from the ground. Have my head up in the clouds so long. Down into the depths with fading light. Can't hold my breath for another. Can't hold my breath. This could be a dream. Or a distant memory. This could be a dream. And out of nowhere, my feet are falling from the ground. Have my head up in the clouds so long. Down into the depths with fading light. Can't hold my breath for another. Can't hold my breath.
So we're back, and that was absolutely amazing. The dancers were terrific. So thank you so much, Cassidy, and we'll have more from Smuin Ballet. Stay on for the whole program because at the end you get to ask all these artists as many questions as you want. So now we're going to move to the Diablo Ballet, which is based in Walnut Creek, and to Lauren Jonas, who is the artistic director since 1993. And she specializes in commissioning new works from choreographers such as Julia Adam. And during COVID, she had a virtual streamed season and she didn't cancel anything. So let's hear from Lauren. So Lauren, tell us a little bit about your season in terms of how it was streamed and how you were able to maintain every piece.
Thank you for having me, and it's an honor to be here. But yeah, as you mentioned, we had all of our performances online. We continued the programming that we had promoted, and the dancers did not miss any weeks of work. And actually, we added a stream in the middle of the season. And like Celia and many other artistic directors, the diversity of the choreographers are very, very important to me. And my role is to nurture the choreographers. So someone like Julia Adam or Penny Saunders, who are brilliant dance makers, it's an honor to have their work on my season. And we will having much more of that coming up in the next season as well.
And you are such a supporter of women ballet choreographers. And Penny Saunders, who we're about to see in an interview, has actually created works also for the Royal New Zealand Ballet. And that is another company that is really in the forefront of producing women choreographers. And we're very happy to see this work now, Berceuse by Penny Saunders. And we're also going to see an interview with Penny that was pre-recorded before that. So we can go to that now.
Well, this is great. It's fabulous to be able to talk with Penny Saunders and about her fantastic piece that she created that the Diablo Ballet presented for us, Berceuse. Can you tell us about the inspiration?
Hi, yes. Berceuse was actually one of the first pieces I ever created back in 2007 or 8. And it's had many renditions since the beginning. And it's something I've loved to revisit with whomever is dancing it. And Diablo is no exception. They're beautiful dancers, and remounting it on those two dancers, Michael and Becky, it was just lovely. It's a balletic piece, but it's also grounded in very sort of modern dance. You don't know it when you first see it, but after you dance it, you realize how grounded it is. And so it blends those two worlds nicely.
It was very muscular and athletic. Can you tell us about your approach? You're working with ballet dancers, and the piece is very powerful.
Thank you. Well, my dance sort of history, I started out very balletic, and then I ended up going very modern with Low Mixed Dance Theater, and then I ended up back at Hubbard Street, which is sort of a mix of everything that you could possibly do physically. And so I think that informs my choreography quite a bit. When I'm working with a ballet company, there's a certain language that I speak so that we can converse better, and vice versa with a modern company. And so this piece is a really nice blend of the two worlds, and very physical. It looks like it's easy because the music is so lyrical, but it is hard.
I saw that the dancers were really taxed, and they had to take breaks in order to record it. It's very demanding. I wanted to also ask you about the composer, Benjamin Godard, and your reason for choosing this music.
I just always loved this piece of music. I actually saw a work choreographed to it at the beginning of my career, in the 90s, that I remember just listening. I could close my eyes, even though the choreography was beautiful. I knew that the music is just so transporting. And so I always had it on my mixtapes back when you had mixtapes. And then when I started thinking about choreographing, like I said, this was one of my first pieces. I went back and what was that piece of music that's been haunting me for decades? I wonder if I can make dance to it. And so I knew it, I could sing it, because I'd been listening to it for years. So it was a really nice way to try to make dance, which was uncomfortable for me at the time.
And I wanted to also ask you about how you've been impacted by COVID, as we all have, in terms of your work, your choreography, and also what you think the future is for women choreographers.
Oh, it's been an interesting time creatively for me. A bit of a surprise, honestly. I had never made a dance film before this pandemic, and now I've made 12. So in the last year, I've been extremely busy, and I've learned a new craft that I am so grateful for. I've also learned a new way to work. Obviously, Zoom is a new reality. So most of what I've made has been not in person and has been via Zoom. And so very often I sit just like this and I just talk. I talk my way through making whatever I'm making. And so it's very catered to the person dancing on the other side instead of me physically getting up and showing things because it's awkward. Can you see me? Am I in view? And I stopped doing that. And it's bad for my body because I don't get up much, but I think it's great for the product because I get out of the way a bit more with my own personal instinct and physicality, and I'm able to listen and use what the others offer me through the screen.
So you found that you were doing a lot of talking.
Yeah, I had to communicate through imagery, and then practicality right over left, and follow their instincts, because if I fight that, it became very frustrating. No, not like that. No. So I just yes it. It doesn't work, I drop it.
Right.
So that we can yes and flow.
So what about in terms of the future for your own choreography and also for women? Because women are just now breaking through in the field of ballet. However, we've had a bit of a setback in that, we're not able to really be on stage.
Well, I think the conversation just keeps getting louder and louder and broader, beyond just, and I think it's important. The ballet world needs a revolution. I've been lucky enough to work in both ballet and contemporary modern, and I do feel like, modern dance and contemporary dance has tried it out sooner. There have been women leaders, and I've never really felt confined with my creativity. I've always felt like I've been given the opportunity, and I feel the privilege in that. But in the ballet world, I definitely see it. I can't say that I've suffered from it, but I think it's changing. You can see the investment that directors are having to make in their female creative persons in their organization, and I think that's wonderful. The more representation we have, the broader range of persons we can have at the table running these organizations, the more interesting stories we'll be able to tell, and the more authentic we can tell those stories. So I think it's really exciting.
One last question is about your work with the Royal New Zealand Ballet. If you can tell us about that under the direction of Patricia Barker.
Yeah, Patricia Barker was one of the first women directors to give me a chance, and she made me resident choreographer at Grand Rapids Ballet, where she directed before I made my first full length there. So I got some momentum going because of Patricia's investment in me. So she brought me to New Zealand in her first season, I believe, for an all women's program, which she's always been very much on the forefront of. And I made a work about the anniversary of women's right to vote, where New Zealand actually got there first.
Mm-hmm.
And celebrating a little farther along. I think it was the 125th anniversary instead of just the 100th. And yeah, it's a beautiful company, and she's been there for years now, and it's evolving under her leadership. But yeah, I enjoyed that piece very much, and I was actually able to remount it. I brought it back to the States for Ballet Idaho this past season, the season before. A large work, 15 dancers. Yeah, just talking about the evolution of female forwardness and representation. And I find that creeps into my work quite a bit. Not because I have an axe to grind, but it's just part of my sort of ingredients.
Say more about that. You don't have an axe to grind. Why do you feel you have to qualify it with that? Maybe you do have an axe to grind.
Well, I have a lot of components. I'm a mother, so that comes into my work. Like I said before, I've experienced in my dance career quite a range of movement and choreographers, male or non-binary, and I feel like that openness and that range, it creeps in. Of course, it influences my work, and I like that. I like that very much. I think the more curiosity you have in the world, the more you're paying attention to the perspectives that are out there, the more will flow through you into your work and will resonate with people, because there's such a wide range of perspective out in the world. And when it's when it's about female forwardness, I naturally, I embody that. I feel authentic in speaking in those terms, and it's something that needs to be heard, because obviously we're not there yet. There's still inequality rampant in all avenues, and so women's rights is just the tip of the iceberg, and we have work to do, obviously.
Yes.
And I'm happy to be a small part of that momentum.
That's great. Well, we're very grateful for your work and for the wonderful pieces that you were able to contribute, and we look forward to seeing more. Thank you.
Now it's time for us to turn actually to Danse Lumière. This is my friend and colleague, Hally Guther.
I'm thrilled to be part of this wonderful event. My connection to all this is that Kathryn and I have known each other since we were teenagers at Berkeley High. We studied together at the San Francisco Ballet School, as well as performed together at the San Francisco Opera Ballet. Now let's get on to the main subject at hand, which is to tell you a little bit more about Kathryn Roszak. She is the artistic director of Danse Lumière, which has been presented locally and by the 92nd Street Y and La Mama in New York City. Kathryn is also the founder of the annual Women Choreographers and Composers Residency held at the International Gerasi Resident Artist Program in Woodside, California. And most importantly, let's talk about the pieces that you're about to see. The first piece of the two pieces that you will see by Kathryn Roszak and dancers tonight is It's Raining, or Es Regnet, music by Kurt Weill. And I'd like to ask Kathryn, what was your motivation to create this particular piece at this particular time during the pandemic? And let's talk about not only your inspiration, but also the process that you went through to create it during this difficult time.
I feel very privileged to be working with singers and musicians for both these pieces here and in New York City. And I heard this music sung by Theo Bleckman, who is based in New York. And we actually have him recorded for this performance. And the music is, as you mentioned, by Kurt Weill, and it has words that were created by Jean Cocteau through a conversation with Kurt Weill. And the moment that this music was written is extremely intriguing because Kurt Weill had a very difficult relationship at the time with Lotte Lenya, the singer. And the piece is both about that and about exile, as Kurt Weill was going to be leaving Germany. And the piece is filled with love and loss and longing. So it seemed perfect for COVID times. And in fact, these pieces were created, both of them, entirely during COVID. And the dancers that I worked with and found from the San Francisco Ballet had to be swept away from me because we were rehearsing and we were told at ODC that we were the last dancers to rehearse there and that we had to leave the building. So we managed to finish rehearsing. And then the dancers were taken to the airport and quarantined. They were a couple. They were quarantined in Colorado. And I had to work the rest of this on Zoom from my car. And I was able to create this ballet, which is about intimacy and touch and human relationship. And I think it was a very important moment to be able to focus on that. So I would like to now go to It's Raining, and I can tell you more about the other piece after that. So let's go to It's Raining.
Ich frage nichts, ich darf nicht fragen, denn du hast mir gesagt, frage nicht. sagst du denn, dass nur der Mund spricht? Augen sind wie Fensterglas, durch alle Fenster sieht man immer. Schließt du die Augen, ist es schlimmer. Meine Augen hören etwas anderes. Meine Ohren für Schmerzen bin ich denn geboren. Lass mein Gesicht am Fenster las. Die Sonne darf jetzt nicht mehr scheinen. Es regnet, sagt das Fensterglas. Es sagt nur, was es denkt. Lass uns zusammen weinen.
That was It's Raining, and just the music and as it was sung by Theo Bleckman was just so lush. And I was struck again by that dramatic tale of the dancers swept away, two casts of dancers. The first swept away at the beginning of COVID, and then later I was able to work with the dancers of Diablo Ballet, and never even met them until the day of the filming. As I mentioned, everything was done over Zoom. And
That is amazing, Kathryn. I don't know. Yeah, that's some things happen in COVID that you just don't, believe are possible until you have to do it.
I had to choreograph a lot of this from a car. So, I mean, on a phone. So it's a completely COVID produced ballet. But I also wanted to say that for the next piece, the same COVID restrictions appeared for this. This was also created in the same way on the original dancers who were swept away. And the next piece is called The Unspoken. And the influence here is from writers, many writers that I had read, including Isabel Allende. And I wanted to do a piece that focused on the idea of a woman who sees but does not speak. So that is the idea behind The Unspoken. In this instance, she is deciding not to speak and when she will speak. And I thought that was a very intriguing theme. And the music is by the wonderful Astor Piazzolla, the Libertango. And this is an arrangement by the Danish jazz violinist Mads Tolling, who lives here in Albany, California. So we are now coming to the finale of this program, which would be with the Berkeley Ballet Theater, which is under the direction of Robert Deckers. And he has also presented a work by Danielle Rowe, Panda Chant. And Danielle Rowe is primarily choreographing with the San Francisco Ballet. And we have an interview with her about how this piece came to be. I was able to talk to her yesterday, and we were able to record her interview. And we will have Robert Deckers here for the Q&A period, which will come right after we view these next works. So I think what we should do now is take a look at Danielle Rowe's interview, and then we'll be able to see Panda Chant. And Danielle Rowe also danced in Europe and has a wonderful background as a dancer, and is coming to choreography with a strong, rich voice. So let's hear what she has to say about her piece.
I'm here with Danielle Rowe, who is choreographing mainly at the San Francisco Ballet. And today we're seeing her work Panda Chant, which was set on the Berkeley Ballet Theater. And I was there when we were in the woods, Tilden Park, filming with drones. And I'd love for you to tell us about your inspiration for the piece, and particularly why you chose to work with Meredith Monk's music.
Well, the piece was commissioned by Robert Deckers, and he actually suggested Panda Chant, the piece by Meredith Monk. It was a piece that the San Francisco Youth Girls Choir were singing as part of a program called Rightfully Ours, I'm sorry, last year in 2020. And he felt that my work would work well with the piece, and I connected with it as well. It's actually part of a larger opera called The Games, which is a sci-fi opera. I've never actually seen it, but from what I can understand, this opera is set at a time like post-nuclear war, and in an imaginary planet. And the people that survived the war would do these games and rituals to remind themselves of civilization before. And I just thought it has this energy and feeling of hope and unity that was very inspiring. And so it just kind of started there, and then we ended up creating this piece with all the women from Berkeley Ballet Theater.
It was great to see this ritual had a very strong energy. And I particularly loved seeing you work with the large group and with the drone.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I mean, with COVID, people are filming dances, and you were working with all sorts of different angles to capture the feeling not only of the piece, but of the outdoors and nature, and particularly the overhead with these drone shots.
Yeah, well, Ben Tarquin, who was the DP for the film, it was really his vision, and he really imagined, along with Robert, that the beginning scene would almost be like a bird soaring over the women dancing, and it also embraced the gorgeous nature that we were in. So it just felt right. And a lot of the angles and shots really just came about then and there very organically. I've been on different shoots where we have a very strict and thought out shot list, but this was a very kind of organic, in the moment shoot, which was beautiful.
Yes, it was. Speaking of which, we were in the out of doors. We weren't presenting in the museum as we had originally planned because of COVID. Perhaps you can talk about how COVID has affected your work as a choreographer, and also where we're going, how we're moving forward, especially for women choreographers.
Well, personally, of course, I was choreographing on stage live prior to COVID, and now everything was pivoted to film. And so I kind of, for the last year, I feel like I've been a filmmaker more than anything else, which has been wonderful. And I've learned so much. And I think this is a great way to expose dance to such a broader audience.
What did you learn?
I learned to look at dance in a different way. And I learned to choreograph in a different way. You have to when you're working with film. Your ability to hone in on details is greater. And so therefore, I feel like my choreography was more detailed and more specific, so that I could highlight, even just like certain body parts and really allow the audience to hone in on that. So yeah, I think I just became more detail oriented in my choreography. There's also so much more to factor in when making a film. There's more people involved. It always takes a lot longer than you intend. There's a lot more components than just putting it on stage. So I've always enjoyed collaborating. I think you have to when you're choreographing, but this has just taken it up to the next level, and being able to communicate clearly with a huge amount of people.
Absolutely. And you're one of the only women choreographers working at San Francisco Ballet. Tell us about that experience and what you see happening for women.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually realize that there were so few female choreographers that have worked at San Francisco Ballet. And
yes, I think I saw a statistic, and it was something in the neighborhood of 9 women choreographers in 30 years. It's shocking.
And I don't think that's unusual across the board with many ballet companies.
That's what's shocking.
Yeah,
it's not unusual.
Yeah, but my experience there was incredible. It was, I mean, I felt like it was quite a mountain to climb as far as all the restrictions we had in relation to COVID. But besides that, it was just wonderful to work with such an incredibly talented group of dancers, and the quality on every level of, to costume design. I had a new score composed by Jim Stevenson. Emma Kingsbury designed the costumes. I just had a wonderful team supporting me to create this film. So yeah, it was just great to feel supported in that way.
That's great. And do you feel that the field is opening up now for more women to choreograph?
I think there's an awareness now that hasn't been there before. And so with that, I think there's a greater balance in how directors are planning their repertoire and who they're incorporating into their programs. And I think it's moving in a really positive direction.
I think so too. I'm really, really glad that we were able to include your work. It's wonderful to see.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. To see so many dancers during COVID is really gratifying. Mm-hmm. And I think with this program, also seeing the duets and the trios and seeing the intimacy between the dancers, people are really hungry for this now. So I thank you for this. and for
Thank
contributing.
you. And I think it's just so important that we keep making and keep creating. And it's just been like incredible and inspiring to see what is being continued to be made despite everything, you know.
Yes, it's as if we're the Sleeping Beauty and we're all waking up now.
I know.
To see what kind of world we're in. That's right. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that was one of the performances that actually could take place out of doors. And we had elected, of course, to be in the museum, to inhabit a museum that was empty during COVID. And this particular performance entailed more dancers, so it needed a special location, and Tilden Park in Berkeley, California was chosen for this. And I want to ask if we have Robert here. We do, great.
Hi there,
Robert.
how's it going?
Great. So this is Robert Deckers, the artistic director of the Berkeley Ballet Theater. And it was wonderful to have Danielle Rowe in the pre-taped interview a few moments ago and to see this piece outdoors in nature. And I wanted to ask you, Robert, how you're nurturing young choreographers and also for your plans to present women.
Yeah, I think that it's just really exciting. This is my fourth season as director at Berkeley Ballet Theater, and it's such an amazing opportunity to have the capacity to give different artists opportunities to create work. And of course, I've known Danielle for many years and been a huge fan of her work. It's such an honor to be able to present her work. She actually created something on the Berkeley Ballet Theater Studio Company right before I had taken the position of artistic director when Britt Julien was the director. And it was just such a powerful work. I had seen very few pieces on student dancers that I felt looked so professional and also so honest to their age. Sometimes it's really hard to make youth dancers look both professional and like teenagers. And I think Danny just approaches her work with so much honesty. She just brings just like an openness to her process. And I really appreciate she, brings a high level of expectation, the professionalism that she approaches, every rehearsal with. It's only matched by her kindness and willingness to support each dancer where they're at. And I think the product is just so wonderful. And I look forward to getting to work with her a lot more in the future.
Yes, and plans in the future for your company following COVID, and also in addition to Danielle, do you have plans to present other women choreographers? I believe that Liz Fain has been part of the lineup.
So Berkeley Ballet Theater has an Artist in Residence program, and Liz Fain Dance is one of the 2020-21 Artists in Residence, as well as Full Stop Dance. So we have that program, again, to try to, give space to artists. I think that, a big constraint as a choreographer, is finding space. So we feel really blessed at Berkeley Ballet Theater to have space and to be able to offer 2 companies each year a residency through our Artist in Residence program. I have lots of plans for lots of dance coming up. Our season ahead, I think this year has been, it was really wonderful to hear Danny speaking and Penny about their process. I actually feel very lucky. My process over the last year, I haven't actually made any, I've taught 1 million ballet classes on Zoom, but I actually haven't made any dance on Zoom. Everything I've been doing has been outdoors in person. And so, it's really opened my eyes to just sort of the opportunities that kind of all around us. And I think, great art happens when you have constraints. When everything's easy and is just there, it's really hard to kind of break out of the mold. It's only in moments where things are really kind of push comes to shove and you can't do the things that you usually would do, that you have to really get inventive. And seeing the works on tonight's program, of course, all of these artists are just so incredibly creative and inventive, and I just feel so honored to be able to present, the work of someone like Danielle Rowe, and for my students to get to work with her and learn from her. This coming year, we're working on an installation piece that will be basically like an improv score for the studio company dancers. It'll be choreographed by Emily Hansel, who's a dance artist with Post Ballet. And the idea is that they basically will have a score of improvisation that will fit into different spaces throughout the year as they present the work. Post Ballet, the professional company of Berkeley Ballet Theater, our resident choreographer is Vanessa Thiessen, and she's currently finishing a full-length work, which will premiere in October. And that's really exciting. It's actually going to be a hybrid film and live performance. So there will be cinematic elements integrated with the live performance. That includes an original score by Samuel Adams, performed by the Living Earth Show. So we're really honored to be able to present her work. She and I have collaborated on lots of pieces. Actually, our first piece that we did together was for Grand Rapids Ballet, Small World, which is where I got to meet Penny. And Patricia Barker was generous enough to bring us in, and we created that work together. And I think Danny mentioned that as like a choreographer, you kind of have to love collaborating. And I think this time has really just helped us all find like even more opportunities to collaborate. I think, in traditional dance, you collaborate with costume designers and lighting designers. And now we've all had the opportunity to collaborate with cinematographers and editors. And I think, I've really been just thinking a lot about how like dance on film can just increase access to what we do.
And what I'd like to do now is mention that many of the people who participated today, the artists, have been part of the Women Ballet Choreographers Residency Program, which also has added composers. And that this takes place every year at the Jurasi Resident Artist Program in Woodside, California, and also upon occasion in New York. And I have founded this, and it's just a great pleasure to see so many of the people, Celia Fushil and Lauren Jonas, who participated in the past here today, and that we also have a chance to further what we're doing with the Berkeley Art Museum. So we're really, really grateful to the Berkeley Art Museum for providing this platform for even more women artists to present their work. And now I think we'd like to go to the Q&A for the audience, because I'm sure that people have questions for the artists, and we'd love to hear from you. If you have a particular artist you'd like to ask the question to, that would be terrific if you can channel that, or if you have a general question, we'll find somebody who will answer it. I'd like to hear a little bit more. We heard a lot from Robert about future plans in terms of programming, but I'd like to hear a little more globally. Both of you have programs that have strong educational outreach components, and I'm liking to hear from you about what you're going to do coming out of this COVID existence. Are you hoping to return to live classes and performances? How much will be virtual? What has happened with that? And let's start with Lauren, and then we'll go to Robert.
We were really lucky that all of our outreach maintained strong on Zoom this year. We didn't cut any of our outreach. We work with the Boys Ranch in Byron and Juvenile Hall, which Robert so beautifully has participated in as well. And our 6 Title I schools that we work with. So that all happened on Zoom. And the beautiful actual happening that occurred was that we were actually really able to reach these youth on Zoom, which was surprising for all of us. And so taking that forward, we will be going back live into the classrooms and to the juvenile facilities. But we will have an element that also stays virtual, because that's worked very, very well for everyone involved. And I think all of us, I'm speaking for all of us, but I think the beauty of the virtual world has really helped us in many, many ways, as Celia was talking before about reaching people beyond our backyard. And what more we can do in that whole realm has been really, really wonderful. So we will be keeping a portion of that. Our season will be live in the theater, but we will also have a offer hybrid for those that are far away or don't feel comfortable returning in person. So that's the beauty of what happened, if you can look at that this year. And I'm sure I know I'm not alone in that as well.
So Robert, what's happening with your organization in terms of the outreach and education and the classes, and how much of the virtual aspect will you keep, or are you just eager to get back into the classroom?
Yeah, well, first I want to say hi, Lauren. Hi, Celia. Hi. So nice to see you. And I just have to give huge shout outs to Lauren and Diablo Ballet. The work that they do in the outreach program is just tremendous, and I felt so honored to get to be a part of that in years past. And it's really also just an honor to be here with you both, and I can't wait to see you in person and give you a big hug soon. And yeah, it's really exciting. I think we're all excited to return to in-person things. I think that, we're dancers, we're used to touching each other and giving weight and sweating on each other, and that like visceral experience of dance, is something that I think we all are craving, the students and professionals alike. And I think that you're absolutely right. Like there's been so much accessibility that we found through working in a digital platform. And I think that as we go forward, I think, yeah, exactly what Lauren said, like finding how can we take the best of all of it? How can we bring back live performance? Because I think there's nothing like it. And the energy that you feel when you see someone, performing live is just so special. And how can you take the work that we do and help more people access it through film, through Zoom classes, through other things. So yeah, I'm really excited to just see how we can kind of. I think I've heard a lot of people like we're not going back, but we're really thinking about like, how are we moving forward. And I think that's such an exciting thing. So yeah, I think for us at Berkeley Ballet and Post Ballet, just kind of exploring how can we do all of that. But I know that my students cannot wait to every day. They're like, when do we get to go back to the studio? So there's nothing like being together and dancing and feeling just that connection. And and kind of you mentioned there our piece had a larger group, which I think by being able to go outside and for them to feel what it feels like to dance in a big group was really special, especially in this year of isolation for the dancers to have that. So
that's great. Thanks for that. Let's see. Lauren, I know you have kind of a hard out and need to leave relatively soon, but I thought I'd mention that in case people see you disappear. But thank you again for joining us. We do have a couple of great questions here in the Q&A. One of them is just sort of a general question. They say, can you talk about how dance films are edited? There are, of course, many approaches and many answers to this question, but all of you have worked with editors to some degree, and probably more this year than you ever have in the past. Does anyone have something they want to say quickly to that? Cassidy, that'd be great.
So I only just started getting into this, and the process that we've been going through at Smuin has been with the dancers doing everything. So at the beginning of the season, we did a trial run of this and put videos out. But now that we're getting to do it a second time, which our shows are actually starting tomorrow online, you can go to the Smuin website and get a ticket. But for us, we came up with concept first and then found some music. And we went out into the world and started filming the exact positions and angles that we needed for everything that we wanted. And we went to like maybe 7 or 8 different locations. We only ended up using about 4, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to get all of the footage. And then John in my specific pod has been the one editing everything together and making it a cohesive piece. And so I'm not actually an editor, but he's been incredible at the process. And we'll put it all together and set it directly to the music exactly where I want it. So that's been really amazing and interesting and a whole new way of putting art out there for you guys.
That's beautiful.
That's great.
Anyone else have answers to that question about editing or anything new or special to add?
Mine's not special really, but we have this wonderful filmmaker and director of photography. So we actually converted, I know Smuin did this, so you did this too, converted our studio into a black box theater and brought in a full lighting package. And so we had full days of filming, 10-hour days, spending about a couple of hours on each ballet, even if it was only about 10 minutes, taping it from several different angles. And then once that whole filming experience was finished, then went to post-production, which takes several weeks to get to where I would get a first draft, and then go back and forth with the editor and the filmmaker, and then finally it was ready to stream. But it is a process, and it's funny, the dancers were talking about this today, that how wonderful it is to do something over again if it didn't go well, but how exhausting it is because you have to continue like you're in front of an audience, and you have to give it your all, and you have to keep doing the same thing over and over from different angles. So the beauty of the film and the beauty of live theater, there's nothing like it.
I agree with that. And do we have more questions, Sean? Because
Yeah,
I'd love.
one more really nice question, which was, what skills have you learned as a dancer that make you a better choreographer?
And perhaps we should go to Smuin for that, because I don't think we've heard from Celia. If she's still here, that would be great.
Yes, I'm here, but I'm not really a choreographer. I have choreographed, but I would love to toss that to Cassidy.
Okay, great.
Whose work I have really enjoyed fostering. Cassidy, of course, was choreographing before she came to Smuin. But having so much opportunity this year to see her work has been super exciting, and also really fascinating to see Cassidy's excitement about contemporary movement. And so she's really been stretching all of the dancers in her pod and with whom she's worked this season. But Cassidy, if you want to talk about how your work as a dancer affects your work as a choreographer.
I'm actually really excited for this question. Penny Saunders is a huge influence on me, and I actually was working with her when I used to dance at Grand Rapids Ballet. And so I was there at the beginning of her career and watched her go through this process. And now that I'm getting to have all of these amazing opportunities, I'm seeing that I have a bunch of her choreography intermixed with mine, intermixed with everything that I did last season. So I feel like everything I do influences all of my choreography and how I see it. So each new choreographer I work with as a dancer will then give me another perspective when I'm in the studio as a choreographer, and another way of looking at it and seeing it. So I think all of my movement is made up of all of the people I've trained under. So it's huge. It's a big deal. Anyone that I've worked under, I take bits and pieces that I think are so amazing and so cool, and I run with it and see how far I can go.
That's great, Cassidy, because I feel that you are honoring the whole legacy of the dance world. And so often people speak about my voice, and our voice is really made up of many voices and influences in the dance world. And it comes as a sort of storytelling through our bodies. And that's what makes dance absolutely unique as an art form. And I think that in the digital age, that's one of the things that's the hardest, is this passage from one person to the next, what we've missed in class, where we're actually able to have the teacher who trained with the other teacher or choreographer or Balanchine or Lou Christensen or someone who is preceding us, coming all the way through to us now. And I think that's been one of the hardest challenges, is the isolation of COVID has not been able to channel that. Wonderful as this is, you know, we're finding new things, but that has been especially difficult. So, and Robert, I'd like to ask you about that, because I know that you have the school at the Berkeley Ballet Theater, and that's exactly the legacy we're talking about. We know that Sally Streets, her daughter, Kira Nichols, all trained with Balanchine. So what's going to happen to that?
Well, I guess I totally agree with Cassidy. I think that as a choreographer, we take all of the experiences that we have as a dancer, but also all the experiences we have as a human. I think some of my most exciting breakthroughs as a choreographer haven't come in the dance studio. They've come on the side of a mountain, or when I'm like, you know, on on an island and like away from it all, and you just realize, oh my gosh, the way these trees are moving, there's nothing like this. Like, how can I embody that? And I think I get really excited by seeing how we can, instead of separating humans from everything else, how dance can actually connect us to one another, to the environment that we're in. I think that in general, like, you know, arts and humanities, like, it's about the humanity of it. And so I think that, like, you know, movement, whether you're working in a classical vocabulary or contemporary or modern, whatever it is, I think that, like, what's really exciting to see is, like, that little window into each person, like who they are beyond the steps, beyond the like phrasing of it. Like, what is that thing that makes them special? And also, what is that thing that connects them to everyone else and everything else around them? And I think that's what I get excited about, you know, whether it's teaching or choreographing. If I press F2, I'm so sorry, if I press F2, oh gosh, I don't think I have an F2.
Don't worry about it, but I was just going to move on to that. So thank you, Robert, because we're talking about technology.
You can just mute me. You can just mute me.
No.
I'll talk for days, girl.
We're talking about technology, and you just brought it up because I agree. The legacy of all these people we learn from, you know, being in nature and having nature as a partner in our work. But really what's facing all of us is that we have this huge force in our culture of technology. And COVID has opened that up big time. And we're all going to be wrestling with that. There's wonderful things, but there's also ways that we have to really look at that as a challenge. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And I see positive ways that we are all doing this as choreographers and in this Zoom that we're able to share with everybody. It's an incredible tool. But let us never forget the power of the body and the power to move. I would like to also just say a huge thank you to all of the artists that participated in this, and that this has been a great moment that we are on the precipice of returning to a new life after COVID. And it's going to be very interesting to see what dance becomes. So thank you, all of you, for your beautiful dances, your riches, your companies, and for the contributions that you are making. Thank you. And thank you, the Berkeley Art Museum, and all the funders and supporters and friends.
Thank you, everybody.
I'll just add my thanks to the end of that too. Thanks to everyone for joining us tonight who is viewing, and thanks for all the participants on our panel. Thank you all the dancers and choreographers. It was just a tremendous show. And then again, I'll say, just as signing off, then on behalf of the Berkeley Art Museum and Pacific Film Archive, thank you to Kathryn Roszak, and to everyone else out there.
You're welcome.
And enjoy the rest of your evening.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.